Good afternoon. Welcome for the Sunday talk. Unfortunately, is it loud enough? Can you hear it? Yeah. Unfortunately, there is a workshop for the monastic at the same time. And so not many are coming because other things going on in the monastery as well. So this is my first time. I was asked to give a talk. And now 2 years here in Amaravati. And I never thought I will once in my life giving a talk in Amaravati, this big monastery here in the West. I lived 15 years in Thailand, and you never know how it is. So it's 2.5 years that I gave my last time a talk. And if you give often a talk, you're quite used to it. So it's easy. But now I didn't have it for 2 years. I'm a little nervous. I remember when I was in Anagarika many, many years ago, I've seen first time the Katina ceremony, and who has seen that there are 2 monks, and everyone have to chant so an invitation for the Katina cloth to be offered, and they do it one after the other. And normally many monks are coming in the monastery. So there may be this time there were 100 monks in Wat Pananachat and hundreds of lay people who were sitting outside because not all can fit in the sala. And you have to do it in Thai and in English. And I thought, I will never do that. It's terrible. Everyone is looking about, everyone focused. I could never do that. 2 years later, just a fresh ordained bhikkhu, and I was in a branch monastery, and Lung Po Liem, as the head of our tradition, were coming, and with many monks, more than 100 monks were there, and 2 monks with the reputation to be enlightened, and hundreds of lay people because Lung Po Liem is coming. So this was stocked, and people were sitting outside. Not everyone could go in to Sala. It was so full, and I had to do that. And I was the second. The first voice was with my friend, a Thai monk, and then I was my thing. And when he was chanting, I was holding the fan, and it was all gone. I was totally black out, and I thought, when he's done, I have to do the other chant, and I can't remember anything. With the cutters, absolutely will be. And my teacher is sitting behind me. But then it was my turn, and it just popped up again. So I'm sometimes a little afraid of, what is it called, a stage fright. So I see how it goes today. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Marana dhammo me marana anatito. I'm of the nature to die. I'm not gone beyond dying. So the theme I was given is when a loved one passes away. And so it's often easy to speak about something when death have to do with other people, problem of other people. But when we speak of death, so we have to, of course, speak about death in general, what it means. And then we have to speak how it is for Buddhists to be confronted with death. And the last is how it is for the relative of someone who passed away. So it's a difficult theme because it's a taboo to speak about this. And when I came to England 2018, just after I arrived, I said, you give the next guided meditation. And I thought, guided meditation, it's all time. The beginner stuff, the all-time beginners, maybe I do a little more advanced, Maranusati, guided meditation about Maranusati. Totally backfired. People complained. So I was off for public speaking for 1 year as a punishment. And nobody told me, of course, they're English. Nobody told me. I think I did something wrong, but what could it be? So nobody's telling you. So, and I got aware, actually, I'm not in Thailand, and it's a different culture. So that is actually a topic people don't like to speak about. And in school, I don't know which one it was. I remember there was a very famous philosopher who said once, the human species is very intelligent, very clever, but it is for him his biggest miracle in the world is that they all know they have to die and all live like they wouldn't. So 2017, I was traveling back to Thailand from Germany, and I had to give a talk in a Buddhist society in Munich. And before I ordained, I was active in a Buddhist society. So in a meditation center. So I was a webmaster, and so for them it was quite special that I am a monk now. And so the leader coming, say, I'm coming to the talk, and maybe you can stay with us for a few days. So he picked me up from this Buddhist society and drove me to the meditation center. And then in the evening we had tea and we're sitting together with the staff and speaking so a little bit. And then there was a young woman who was just very new in doing this service for all the retreatants, cooking and all that. And she was telling me, actually, I don't believe in rebirth. This is a little weird. And, I'm interested in meditation. And I told her, actually, that is not Buddhism. Rebirth is actually the base of Buddhism. Because if we don't believe in rebirth, then why do we like to escape rebirth? Then there's actually no reason to do practicing to get rid of defilements, so you're not reborn. So without being reborn and going up and down in the different level of existence. So if we have this feeling, then the danger is we will suffer in future lives. And only when we believe in rebirth, there is good deeds we are doing, we get the benefit of it. So in a future life, for example, we have a good rebirth. Or if we do evil, maybe the opposite. So without rebirth, it don't make case. So I was former Christian, and though I realize often in Christianity, the people that believe is quite weak, and the people are not sure if they still believe in God. And even some Buddhist monks, for them it's already a critical point to speak about divine beings, devas or angels, because it's a little weird, because they have all problem with Christianity. And in Christian people, I'm not sure if they really like to believe that. And yeah. So the passing is quite important because it opens the world in a new way. It's a new rebirth. And the benefit of being a Buddhist is with meditation, we actually prepare ourselves already for that. When I was a novice, we were invited, we went to a big festival in a branch monastery. Wat Pa Nong Wang, and he's a very famous monk. He's a very good speaker and quite famous in the Ajahn Chah tradition. So for his it was a birthday, and so many monks did come, and many lay people had a lot of lay followers. And of course, an event like this, they bring the best. And in Isan, it's a specialty to eat insects. So they are in the past, it was something they did when they are very hungry and the crops did fail. They didn't have enough to eat, so they eat insects, and then realize actually they're quite tasty. So now their specialty is quite expensive. And so a few people bought insects, and they had grasshoppers. And I took Lungpo Liem a month before. We were living in Wat Pah at this time. He was saying the monks should eat insects because it's healthy. It's good for the health, so they should go over their aversion and see it only as food, which is healthy, and we should eat it. So, of course, Westerners, I like to follow the master correctly. So I didn't have an aversion because I tried before, and I found it actually tastes quite good. Tastes like peanuts, grasshoppers. But Ajahn Cittaviro, who is now the abbot of Wat Pah Nanachat, didn't. He's actually was a vegetarian who just struggling to eat meat, because Lungpo Liem said, they should not following your desires. When you're vegetarian, you also should eat meat, because it's only about minerals the body need, and to be more flexible in the mind. Whatever is offered, you eat. So he felt he had to eat it because Lumpur was saying, we should eat it. So he also took a few. I was a novice, so didn't sit with the other. So I was with a small boys. Because in Thailand, a novice are normally children, and the adult are then of the bhikkhu. But Ajahn Chah tradition, you have to be a novice first, and Westerners only do so long. The Thais is quite short often. They're only 2-3 months, and then they're 2 months only, and they're bhikkhus. So it looks a little weird when you're sitting all the time with the kids. And but anyway, I didn't realize that something were going on. And when we drove back, I said, "Where's Ajahn Cittaviro?" And they said, "Oh yeah, he's in hospital." In the hospital? Why? What's happened? So my Thai was too bad, so I didn't understand. And so when he came back, I asked him. So he came back at 6 o'clock or so, and they say, "Oh, what happened? Why you went to hospital?" I say, "Oh yeah, you were eating these grasshoppers." I say, "Oh yeah, I remember. There were some who were not good. So when I tasted it, they tasted like soap. So I spit them out." I say, "Oh, I didn't." The problem is when you eat something you don't like to eat, then the mind have a protection mechanism, so you actually cannot taste it. So he was eating it, but his mind were protecting him because it goes against normal tendency. So he couldn't taste it, but I ate them in the past already, so I could taste. 2 didn't taste well, so I spit them out, and the 3 I ate were fine. And what happened was, there are different methods in catching them. And the easiest method is you use very strong poison, which is not allowed in the West, and mix it with the food. When the grasshopper eating that, they cannot fly away, so you can collect them and sell them. Is of course illegal. The normal method is you have a lamp in the night over so a small pond, and they fly to the light and then falling into the water. In the morning you take them out, but of course it's not so effective. So it looks like someone did the method which was illegal to catch it with poison, and of course the insect is eaten this poison, which is actually not allowed in the West. And so when you eat it, you also get it. Ajahn Cittaviro told me after he ate the first one, he felt a little funny. In the second one, he felt a burning in his mouth. And it was a little weird. And so he thought maybe not good. And so he spotted out, and then he could feel a burning over his full body. And he was starting sweating very strongly. So he stopped eating and went to the bowl washing area to wash his face. And then another monk from our monastery, only 4 monks. So the other monks went with him to checking what's going on, and he said, I don't know, is something wrong with me? And then he lost his power of speech, and then he was paralyzed and he had to lay down, and he couldn't speak anymore, so they realized it's maybe better to bring him in hospital. And the other monk, Gruber Siang, a very caring monk, but he didn't think very much, so they put Ajahn Cittaviro on a pickup in the countryside and drove him to the hospital with all the bumps, and he bang his head. And he couldn't speak, so he couldn't tell the other monk, "Can you hold my head?" And he was saying, I couldn't move, I couldn't see anymore, and my vision was back. The only what I had was a breathing, but I was not afraid because I was a meditation monk, and I know so long I can focus on my breathing, I will be fine. And so he had to wait half an hour in the hospital, and till the doctor came, and then it went already better. They gave him something, and after a few hours, he was fine. And other 15 lay people also had to go to the hospital because it didn't need some time before the microphones were actually announced, don't eat the grasshoppers, they are not good. So all the other 15 people had to go for treatment. What's important, what I like to tell you is, he was saying what saved him was his meditation practice, because he didn't see, he couldn't move, his mouth were burning, but he still could breathe, and he did know, so long my breathing is okay, I will be okay. And 2016, and I'm just telling stories, but it's all related somehow. Before I went to the West, first time to Chithurst, I heard Luang Por Liam is in Bangkok, and I was just staying in the monastery in Bangkok, preparing for going. 3 days later, my flight was supposed to go, and so I asked permission if I can go to see Luang Por Sumedho. So I had to wait till he come out for tea time, and he was telling me, Cittaviro, I'm here because I have to go to hospital. And I have to do some eye operation. And the doctor told me there's 15% possibility I might get blind. It's not sure if we work out correctly. But I tell you, if I'm getting blind, it wouldn't bother me at all. And I found it super inspiring, because through this Buddhist practice of letting go, if you don't see your body as yourself anymore, if you see the body as a body, and you have not attachment anymore, it's just fine. So for him, it wouldn't have been a problem to have a negative effects on the operation. I might be blind. It wouldn't have affected his mind. And found super inspiring, because that is often people, it is difficult to pass away. People have a lot of pain, and the process of dying, people are afraid because they have the feeling they don't know about the future. And so being a monk now, since so Bhikkhu been 24 years, and Samanera 2 years, 23 years in Rome, I realize I have actually no problem if I have to go tomorrow. I have the feeling all the goodness I did, and I feel a lot of purity in my heart. I have no regrets about anything. I'm so happy that I had the possibility to meet this path and could ordain. So if I have to go, I just can let go. There's nothing, my only worry would be, maybe I didn't explain the second guest monk how to give him the password for our computer or something. But the other, it's fine. And it's only stories. I was often helping in a monastery with they had so in summer, so children were ordaining regularly there, and so for the summer holidays, like Boy Scouts, so they are being 2 months in a monastery, being ordained as samaneras, and a group of monks, who is then the replacement father, and I also was helping for 8 years there. And there was a senior monk who was a preceptor, and he was a village monk with a big belly and a big smile. So like they say about Ajahn Chai, he looked like a big frog. And I really liked him. And before I left 2008, and it was 2070, I stayed 1.5 years in this monastery. And the abbot was quite happy because I was a senior monk already. And so he don't have to go to the ordination because there's so many temporary ordination. And you have to go up at 4 o'clock, drive there, 4:30, you should be in the monastery. So it's just a lot of work additional. So he sent me all the time. And there was one time we arrived and it was empty, no one there. We looked very empty, the full monastery. So we went to the Uposatha hall where the ordination will happen. There was no one there, so we were sitting there. And after half an hour later, a Lungta, so an old monk who had fresh ordained, came and asking Lungta, where's Lungpo? He said, he's not here. He's not here. This is 4:45. Where should a monk be? Not in a monastery, 4:45 in the morning. Strange. He's not here. He said, don't worry, he will come. So I said, this is strange. And then just a little after 5, he arrived and he was on crutches and his feet was in a plastic bag and so wrapped around, and from the arms, so pipes were hanging out. And he told me, I'm sorry, I'm a little late. They didn't like to let me go from the hospital. I'm coming only to do the ordination and I have to go quickly back in the hospital. And he was saying, wow, amazing. It's a temporary ordination. The guy ordains only for 1 month and he's in hospital. And he found it so important that he is against the will of the doctor. He went back to his monastery hanging these pipes out of his body to do the ordination. Then go with I'm sorry, I have to go now. And so that is the right attitude for life, though he will have no problems with passing away because the heart qualities are so highly developed. And I found it so inspiring sometimes to meet monks like that. And this was not a forest monk based on very strict monks' rules, and meditation was not the main of his, but his heart was correct in giving, and he's creating so much happiness. So he was radiating happiness out, and I found it quite inspiring to see that. And so the practice of Buddhism, so we are on this path. So just now, tomorrow, a study monk is coming. He studies in Oxford. And I thought of how waste is it as a monk to do that? You have to study your mind, not some scientific things. It's so important to realize why I'm unhappy, what is creating my suffering in my life, how I'm doing that, to let it go. And that is what we are doing. We're observing our mind to see how do I work, how do I create my own suffering, and creating this safeness in my life. Lungpo Liem often in Dhamma talk says, you hear this word, sala, often is talk. So I asked one the Thai monk who could speak English, what does this mean, sala? I mean, sacrifice. You say, we're sacrificing. So safeness mean, you sacrifice something for someone, for something else, something more important. And you sacrifice comfort for doing something good, or for helping other people, for helping in the monastery, helping young monks. When you're a senior monk, it's often quite nice what we all do, but it gets more and more a burden when the body gets older. And Wat Papong was very strong, so long Lungpo Viem was all time sitting in front. But when he had his heart problems, then it didn't go often to the morning and evening puja, and then the monks don't start to come anymore. And so he had to go again. So you have to, to say, okay, you have to be an example all the time. Even if you say, I'm teaching already for so long, like Luang Por Liem, I wouldn't need to do that, but then you're doing it to be an example for other people. And when I was 2007 in Chithurst, so a very famous disciple of the monastery. So since the beginning of the monastery, she was connected. She was an artist, so she drew a fantastic picture of Luang Por Man, which is well known in Thailand. All absolutely amazing. This and what is it called? I don't know how this technique is called in English, but it looked absolutely amazing. Nobody did believe when I said, "Oh, I know this woman. She's a Westerner," and nobody believed it's a Westerner because it's so fantastic, this picture. And she came very, I did know her, and then later she didn't come to the monastery, only her husband. And he was speaking with the abbot Ajahn Cittaviro, and the husband she passed away then, and she has, were speaking about the last years, and he said it was very difficult for him because she had cancer, and she couldn't lay down anymore. So he built her so bored on during night, and so she was actually practicing much harder than the most monks. There is this monk's practice not to lay down. So she did that as a laywoman because the pain would be too strong to lay down. And for 3 years she couldn't lay down. And then she was getting too weak and had to stay in hospital. And the nurse and the doctor were very impressed from her because having so much pain herself, she was only there for the other patient and helping them, inspiring them till she passed away. So I could see, that is the result of practice. So some develop this open heart and like sharing, and I have no doubts about you will have got a good rebirth. In Thailand, if someone is dying, is very different to here because the houses are on stilts, and on top is where you live, and during the day the people are under their houses often. And I was invited from a master who is believed to be an enlightened master to go with him and another young monk to his home because his mother is dying. So we stayed there, and I found it absolutely amazing, this feeling of community. When her bed was under the house, and people were constantly coming in and say hello to her, speaking with her. And so very different to being in an old people home or in a hospital. And she passed away then. And I found it very inspiring because the father of this monk, her husband, was a first disciple of Wat Nong Papong. And his full life, so the most important lay disciples are doing the chanting. So they do the part of the lay people inviting the monk for Dhamma talk. And they do this chanting thing. And so this master had since childhood a very strong connection to monkshood already. And so he regularly played with a tape where his father were doing this chanting. So instead, every evening he gave a Dhamma talk, and then he played his father doing this invitation for a Dhamma talk. And his mother could hear them just lying there in bed, putting their hand in Achali, so really devoted. And I found it very, very beautiful. Someone is dying with a heart engulfed in the Dhamma. So what I was trying to say with all that is, in Christianity often people have problems because they're not believing anymore in heaven, or they don't know what they should believe. So what is happening when they are dying, or in the process of dying, or just before, there's this fear, what will happen to me, this unknown. And through the practice of Buddhism, so we don't have this fear anymore, because their heart is open, and you're getting more and more confident in the practice. And the most people have this, and the long time practice, this feeling, I will be fine. Whatever will come, it will be fine. So if one have good meditation, then sometimes people have memories of former lives, and for them it's then quite easy to understand that it's actually truth. There's a circle of rebirth. But even if you don't have that, it makes so much case. When you think about science, physics, so energy is not coming from nothing. So it's all related to each other. And so the chitta is just passing on. And for me, it's quite amazing, because I never had pets also in my life. But since I'm in England, they have cats there. And when you observe them, you could realize they have really character. You could see there's a chitta, there is likes and dislikes. Not one cat is like the other. There are personalities. And for me, absolutely clear there is not much difference. There's just a chitta, like a chitta is in this body here. It's just the body is not providing for more than what the animal body is giving. So for me, that is so, I can see. As a Christian, I didn't believe animals. There's only animals don't have a soul. But now, as a Buddhist, I can see that is not true. We can be reborn as animals, and animals can be reborn as human beings. When I was 2 Vasa, I spent some time in Bangkok in a branch monastery of Luang Por Biak. And he is known to have some special good results of his meditation. So he knows things people normally don't know. And they had many, many dogs in this monastery. And it was quite difficult, because some of the dogs were quite angry. And so I wasn't from the monastery, so they were barking and trying to bite. So it was a little difficult sometimes. And they had a very cute young dog, which is the only dog I actually liked. And then a monk told me the story. They actually bought this dog once 2,500 baht. It was 2,500 baht. That's crazy. There are so many dogs. They're normally coming automatically to the monastery. So why are you buying a dog? Why is Luang Por buying a dog? It's not even donated. He bought it, and I couldn't understand it. So he told a lay person to buy it. And he said, because the reason is, in the monastery, there was one dog who was very naughty and liked to bite all monks. And Luang Por was saying, as a positive effect of living in a monastery as an animal, you get human rebirth, because you're close to Dhamma and to the monks. But because he was naughty, so he couldn't be reborn as a human being. So Luang Por was meditating and checking out where he was reborn, and he could see he's reborn in this house, in this family. So he sent the lay people to buy the dog back, so he can be back in the monastery having a second chance. And I found this quite interesting to know from a master that, animals living with human beings, often getting attached to be a human. And so if the paramis or the goodness is there, if they are not too naughty, then this is all about the mind. Then the mind is getting then in a rebirth as a human being. And in the past, we had this book from Meiji Keo, so an enlightened nun, so a nun who was believed to be an arahant, disciple of Lungta Mahabua and Lungpo Man, and this was full with psychic powers, and she remembered in her life before that, when she was a nun, she was a chicken, and she lived in the monastery, and she liked to hear the monks chanting. So every evening, when the monks were collecting for the evening puja, they were flying to a tree next to the sala, sitting on a lower bench, and were listening to the chanting. And she was saying, as a result of this good karma, I was reborn as a human, and then this, as a result of this good karma, probably Lungpo Man came as a Tudong monk in her village, and she was listening to his ceremony, and she was so inspired that she offered him to build a hut for him for one rain season, so he could stay in her own garden. The garden in Thailand is just a wilderness, but they have a few trees planted, so it's not like a garden we have here. So he accepted, and he taught her meditation, and so then she was on the way later to ordain as a nun. But yeah, in the life before, she was a chicken. At least that's what she was saying. So in our practice, it's to be aware, going back to death, that actually the body is only a body, and it works for some time, and then it will stop working, and we will get a new one. If the paramis are there, and the Buddha, after his enlightenment, he tried to go back in time, and so he went back 91 eons, so 91 big bangs, we would call it nowadays, and then he realized there is no beginning, so it's just birth and rebirth according to your karma. And during this time, he realized there were 6 Buddhas before him, which is, when you used to think about 91 eons. So in the moment, we know probably 12.8 billion years ago, it was supposed a Big Bang. We are not 100% sure because this is no newest James Webb telescope. So it looks like not 100% sure how the beginning, the unit, it looks like it could be older. But so it's still in the beginning. It's quite a long time. And the universe is still expanding. And scientists are not sure if it will be reversed. So there's different theories, because they discovered actually the outer galaxies are speeding up. So it looks like it will expand forever. And there are other scientists say now the gravity in the end will stop them. It will reverse it. And so that what the Buddha said, the world will end when the universe is contracting, and it will end in fire. And then it was expanding again. So we don't know how long it will need before the world will end. But in 91 eon, there were only 6 Buddhas before. We have now 7 with our Siddhartha. So it's quite rare to have this possibility to come to the teaching of the Buddha. So it's quite a rare possibility to have this possibility of practice. and we don't know how long we will be around. So it's often encouraging, actually, to put effort in, because we all have to face death, and the practice will make it much easier, and will lead us to have an easy rebirth and a good one. So, but actually the theme is how it's for relatives when someone passes away. And actually, 3 years ago, my father passed away. And it was already 4 years ago that I got this phone call when I was in Chithurst. Your father is passing away. You have to come quickly if you like to see him. So it was during Vasa. So I said, okay, we're breaking Vasa. We fly quick back home. When I arrived, they said, oh, my son is coming. So miraculously, he was better and he didn't die. So after 1 month, I flew back and they say, the doctor was saying he's dying. And then in the 3 days till I arrived, it went all good again. And then 1 year later, I was teaching in Germany. At first, I visited my parents and was all normal. So with my father in old people home, dementia. So sometimes he was more awake than others. And sometimes he was speaking only in Czech with me, and he didn't realize I don't speak Czech. Father, can you speak German, please? And he didn't realize. He was really angry with me because I didn't answer him. I don't know this language. And so I was teaching. I went then to teach a retreat, and 2 days on the third day, maybe there came the focus. Now he's dying now. He had a stroke, and so he's in hospital now. And we did tell the doctor to, just let him go. So we go back to old people, to his old people home, and maybe die soon. There's no way he can stay longer. So could you come back? So I drove back, and so I had the pleasure to spend the last 3 days of his life with him. So we're holding his hand in the night, and he passed away. And so the day when the family had the feeling he will pass away, we did a lot of weird things. So my brothers would come with a guitar and with their flutes and were singing for him. And I said, oh God, his hearing is bad. And it's all these sounds. He just liked to speak, and it was not possible. And then we were quarreling about what to do now. And it was terrible. And then they all left, and I stayed on. And I had the feeling when it was only important for him was actually I was holding his hand, and sometimes he took the hand away, and he liked to be more distant, and then the finger was coming again, and I realized, okay, he likes holding his hand. And then 11, he fell asleep, and I realized, okay, it was a full day with him, and maybe I'm going up to my parents to have some rest, because tomorrow will be a long day, maybe it's then tomorrow. And then in the morning, we just finished breakfast, and I was robing up. And I went down with my brother, because my brother is a nurse, and he said, it's very clear, it will be the last day, so let's go down early and shave him, make him ready. And we take down, this was a headmaster from the school, so a nice blue suit and a tie, to get him dressed properly. So the idea is to go down, wash him, and dress him correctly. And just when I was robing up, there was a phone call. He just died, just now, 2 minutes ago. So we went down, and they just washing him, and I could feel he was still there. This chitta was still there. I could feel the presence. And then, my brother know how to do that with turning and the body, so to get all the dresses on. It's quite difficult to do it with a corpse when he's not helping. And so we dressed him in this blue suit. And I was the only one who know how to do a tie. So Doppelknot Windsor. And I could feel this feeling of delight. So he could have the feeling his chitta is present, and he likes it. Now it looks correct. He looks like the headmaster of a school again. And so we stayed the full day in the room. And after a few hours, I realized he was gone. So it's, had a rebirth. And then it was very difficult for my parents, for my mother, because my mother is someone who, is very good in not confronting herself with unpleasant feelings. So in the morning, I had the feeling I like to be alone. So I had breakfast very early before the other went up. And in a few years ago, my brother said my parents will not offer me the food anymore because they are too old. And I have to accept that the food is offered verbally. And I say, okay, it's fine. I will confess it later in the monastery. So I didn't know it's okay. So I had a good breakfast, and I went to the forest, took some water along. And I just spent the full day in the forest. It was quite interesting, you get all the memories who coming up. And, it was my way of to say goodbye to my father. And sometimes tears, you remember something. Sometimes anger about things didn't work so well. Yeah, my father is from the old school, though we were still learning you have to hit children. And though I suffered a little bit as a child, I found all time it's so important to speak English. So he thought to hit the English in me, right? I had to memorize English every day. On holidays, and every evening he was checking vocabulary. The full day. In the end, I didn't speak English because it is not a method where you learn. You learn because you like it. It's something nice and not you're pressured and it's the worst you have to do. I learned English good when I lived then in an English-speaking community. And, for 3 days I did that. To only, didn't see my parents, came back late, went to my room. And then I realized actually I didn't lose him, because what my father is the memory, what I have in my heart. And what I lose is only this bodily form. The body was already broken, he was already someone who has to be taken care. So that's why it was in an old people home, because my mother couldn't do that. And but his heart is still there, and it was in my heart. My father was in my heart, and I had the feeling actually I didn't lose him, because all what me and my father is still there. And as a monk, I can share merit and do good in his name, and I have these connections. My mother is still suffering about that, and for me, 3 days, if you're not afraid to cry and to be aware of your feelings and just let it out, and you see all the good and the not so good, and you forgive for all the things he did wrong, and ask for forgiveness for the things I did wrong. Boys are sometimes a little naughty, and then I was fine with it. And for me, the thing is also with death, I will be the next. So to see, that I'm the next generation who have to go, to remember what happened to my father will happen soon to me. Time is going so quick. I think now I'm at 21 years a monk. When I ordained, I say, oh God, terrible. It need 5 years where I should have to be under dependence. And when you're already middle-aged and you have to ask someone, can I do this? After 5 years, like a boy again. And then makes cluck and you're terror already. And then 20 years, time is going so quick. So, if I'm not dying before, then it will be no time, and I will pass away. And the best preparation for it is just to practice the Buddha's teaching. And with that, I will stop here. Eva? Question and answer. So which question should I ask? Yeah, we have a microphone here, and I was told it's already on. So if you like to ask a question, you're very welcome to go and ask.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah.
Thank you again for your talk today. It's been really interesting. So at the beginning of the talk, you mentioned how one of the purposes of Buddhism is the idea of rebirth, right? And if not to believe in rebirth, then why do the practice of meditation? However, I find in my meditation, it brings me to the present. It brings me to be able to have awareness of whatever is happening right now in my body, in my mind, rather than living in the past or living in the future, as I thought or understood the Buddha to also teach, to not live in the past or to not live in the future. But if the point of Buddhism is rebirth, then, and you're meditating for the purpose of rebirth, then that means you're meditating for the purpose of the future rather than meditating for the purpose of the present. And I find that almost to be, because obviously I'm at a level of understanding where this doesn't make sense to me because it feels like a contradiction. Whereas like the rebirth into a different layer of existence is like a product. It's a result. It's at the end rather than being process-based, rather than being here and practicing meditation for the purpose of practicing meditation. So I just would be really appreciative if you could expand on that point within the context of the present versus future orientated results.
You have a very nice voice. It sounds very good.
Thank you.
Very motivated.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, first, the purpose of Buddhism is not rebirth. Rebirth is just reality. It's happened to everyone. Also, the Christian believe in rebirth. They just believe they're only reborn 2 or 3 times. So they're reborn now, and then when they were naughty and they are Roman Catholic, then they're reborn in this purifying fire, and then they go, and then they get again a reborn in heaven. If you're Protestant, then they're reborn in heaven or in hell. So they also rebirth. But in Buddhism, we see this much more complex. So it's a constant one after the other. So there's just what happened. So meditation is actually not Buddhist. It is actually much older. The Hindus did that already, though the only difference is how it's used. And if you see the suttas where the Buddha speaks about his awakening, so he went in meditation and makes the mind very calm, and then his mind is very clear and it's very powerful, and with his power you start reflecting, and you get deep insight when the mind is quiet. For example, one other of the stories, when before I get in contact with Theravada, my brother was already practicing Theravada, and I just finished my education as a psychotherapist, and we spoke about different views about human beings. And what he was saying is actually the same what I was saying, but I call it psychology, modern psychology, and he called it Buddhism. So it was my interest was awakened through that he, what I called as psychology, he called Buddhism as a religion. So and he was saying, I did Zen before, yeah, but we did the real thing, Soto, sit just only practicing. You just sit in front of a wall, and because we didn't have instruction, so we were waiting till the time was over. Nobody told us what to do, and my teacher was my martial art teacher, and he did 2 weekend sessions already, so he was really experienced. So I realized I cannot meditate. And then my brother told me, my master is coming. And, when you're interested, maybe you can come also with me. And I was thinking, ganz full weekend, I know I cannot meditate. So maybe I signed up only for Friday evening for the Dhamma talk. We were doing some Friday evening, and this guy was actually not a good Dhamma talker. But what he was saying was really touching me deep inside. And what he was saying was exactly what I was believing, but I didn't know I was believing that till he said it. Yeah, exactly, but I didn't know before I believing that. And then I realized I'm actually Theravada. So it was so interesting that I got confident. And in the evening before going back home, I signed in for the rest of the weekend. And at this time, I had, it was in an inner conflict related to a female. How so often it's just new relationship, 2 weeks. And it was really, really difficult. And it was, it's really observing your full being is in, oh, she's loving me, she's not, all that things. And was really absorbing. And with a meditation, so I didn't know what to do because my heart goes in one direction, my mind saying, no, get out of there, get out of there. And I was, torn apart. In this meditation, my mind was just a little more quiet. It was not jumping so quickly. And it was so clear then what to do. It was absolutely clear. And I said, wow, it's amazing. Meditation, but actually clearing up what is the right thing to do. And I found it absolutely amazing as a technique to tell you what is right for you. So when all this mental activity is not there, you actually get quite in harmony with your heart and what actually good for you. And then it's quite easy to do a decision. So I found it absolutely amazing. And because of that, I was on the hook. And because I was a Christian before, of course, I didn't believe in devas and the angels and all this thing. And so I really like Theravada because it's only the teaching. All this weird stuff, what the Tibetan doing with their devas and all that is not. And till I realized we also believe that I was already too much into it. Someone had told me that in the beginning, we also believe in divine beings. I have enough of that, But so, because meditation is actually working for your life, that is what actually put me on the path. I found it absolutely helpful. And so I went, every 2 weeks I went to this meditation. I couldn't do every week because it was in conflict with Iaido, to martial arts. So I sacrificed half of my Iaido practice on doing meditation. So every fortnight I went to the meditation group. And I had planned a vacation with my best friend. So we had planned to rent camels and with a guide to cross the Sinai from the Red Sea to the other side. So maybe 1 month and this was our plan. But then he couldn't make himself available. He said, I'm so busy now with my new company. I'm sorry, I can't. So I was standing there with 1 month of holiday already. I got already signed up from my boss. I can go there. It's not possible to change it very easily. So I said, what should I do now with this 1 month? And in the meditation group, someone was telling about retreat center, a monastery in Thailand, where they do these Burmese retreats. And I said, well, why not? Maybe I should do that then. So I went there, and I know now Burmese style is not for me, but the amazing thing was, it was a 10 days retreat, and after the 5th days on walking meditation, my mind totally stopped, and I was not doing anapanasati. I was just focusing on the movement of the body, and then the heart opened and had this connection with everything. And I realized, without having jhana, so it's just only the normal meditation, I realized I'm not separated from all other beings. I'm everything, and I'm the sound, and I'm the bird over there, or this insect which do this drilling sound. And this lasted for a few minutes, and I found this profound stillness. And it was so much pleasure, because the mind was, this quick reacting mind was very slow for a short time. And it was so much pleasure not to have all this quick responding mind, this inner dialogue stopped. And then I tried to get it back, but then it didn't work anymore, because now was desire, and there was hindrances. But I found that helped me to continue on the path. So I got some of the fruits. And what you were saying with future and past, what all the teachers are saying is actually there is no past, because the past is gone. And the future is a fantasy. It's not there. You don't know your future. As a monk, you do a lot of planning because nothing happened. You know, what I do next Vasa? Where should I go during the time when I can go to other monasteries? Should I go this monastery or this monastery? And you plan this. Oh yeah, I'm going with my best friend there. We go together. We'd be great. And it never went. never went like that. This you have to aware that it's only the here and now which is actually reality. And when you're bored, you say, "Oh, I like to be later." You just continue here now, and then this time for sleeping is there, or time for eating. Oh God, I'm so hungry today. I hope it would be mealtime. And you just am here now, and then it's there already. Zack. So the future, this is all time present, and then the future is there. And time goes quicker and quicker. So older you are getting, then you see it's only the presence or proliferation. Because you're not happy with the here now, you're going off fantasies, driving with a motorbike to South America, or whatever you like to do, or you remember something from the past and relive it, because the here and now is not pleasant. And meditation start only working when you find pleasure in the here and now. Then this proliferations don't have any power anymore. When you breathe in and you can feel the air going in, and you can feel that it's life, and you breathe out and you can feel I'm alive, and the heart opens up, and you have this very strong feeling coming, and you really like the moment. And then it's very easy to focus the mind on something. And I was then the Burmese tradition, that was we call it concentration camp. With all force, you force your mind to concentrate, and you're getting so exhausted because of all this mental action you're doing. Only we had, I think, one hour after the meal where we had a little rest, and then constantly. I don't know how I did that at this time, and I couldn't do that anymore. 10 days, so really full on, and it didn't work. It only started working when I discovered there are this Western monastery from Ajahn Chah, And I went there, and then I spoke with one of the monks there who was my teacher then later on, and he told me, just calm down, just let go. Don't have to concentrate. And it was so relief, because as a martial artist, you have so much mind, but there's much power, so put so much effort in it. It costs so much energy. And so you just, you let go. You're sitting there, and it's nice, and it's pleasant, and you just focus. And then all these amazing things happen in your meditation. You don't have to do anything. You just have to let go. You don't have to get something, and you just have to get rid of obstacles in your mind, and then it's coming automatically. And the big master saying that is actually the normal state of mind, when the mind is quiet. And I remember a Dhamma talk from Ajahn Amaro. When I was a young monk, I hear a Dhamma talk, the tapes. I don't know if people still know what tapes are, but we had these tapes, and I heard a Dhamma talk from him, and he described when he was a young monk in Wat Pananachat, and we were sitting, we're still doing that, to sit there all night on Vantra or Uposatha day till the morning. And most people don't like it, because it's actually difficult to do, especially the time between 1 o'clock and 2:30. I had to do often walking meditation, because it's difficult with energy. When you're in Vipassana, it's not so difficult, because they have midnight drink, some coffee, and I realize coffee can be very helpful. In Thai monastery, there is no midnight drink. It's more difficult. But anyway, when you go in the morning of Alms round, you're really exhausted. And I realize there's no inner dialogue anymore, because you're just too tired for it. You walk on Alms round, and your mind is quiet, natural. And Ajahn Amaro in his talk was saying, I did the sitting the full night, and on the day after, they don't like people sleeping too much. So there is a big sala cleaning, and so you can have a nap from 1.5 to 2 hours maximum. And then in the evening is a sauna. And he was sitting in the sauna, and then he realized it stopped. This inner dialogue, his full life, is not there anymore. And how delightful this was, the first time experiencing that. But that is actually how it normally is, if you don't fill up our mind constantly. For me, being a monk now longer, I found it absolutely terrible to go to somewhere, to a doctor or to a surgery. And wherever you sit, you have this music, because people cannot be quiet anymore. Or you're sitting in the train and everything like goes on these mobile phones, and no one is in the here and now anymore. So meditation can be quite helpful to actually experience how the mind really is if you don't fill it up all the time. Okay, I'm speaking too much. Next question. It's funny, I'm doing school classes regularly, so we have the school classes, and the kids ask questions, and sometimes the teachers are really blown away. Amazing, totally amazing. And I said, Amaro, I just explained, the principle of Buddhism. They say, oh, this is amazing. They say, yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? It's so normal for us, and for the people, they never hear that. Everything is conditioned, and they, for them it's so deep inside, but it's actually quite normal. For them, but I try to say, I often don't know how it is when I speak, because I just speak. For me, it's quite normal, but often just for people, they have a different experience. Okay, now some. Yeah.
You spoke of the physical body dying. In metaphysics, outside of the monastery, such as Eckhart Tolle, spiritual teachers such as Eckhart Tolle. They talk about the subtle body, the emotional body, and the mental body. In your talk, you mentioned that when your father's physical body died, his chitta was still there. Could you expand on that? What does that mean? And in Buddhism, are there other bodies other than the physical body?
It's actually quite a difficult question for me now, because it's actually quite difficult to explain what the chitta is. So it's not like in the Christianity we have the soul. It's when I was an anagarika, I asked a senior monk the question and answer: if there is no self, what is reborn? What is that? And he say, but there is no self, so what is then reborn? And he say, yeah, your concept is wrong, because just in the moment there is also no self. This is a wrong concept. You think you have a self, but it's only because you're creating it. In reality, there is no. So often it's very difficult to grasp it, because how we are trained to think and see our life is different to the Dhamma. And the Buddha didn't like to explain some things because it's not possible with this language. So there are some teachers who really like to elaborate about jhanas, deep meditation, and it's so beyond normal reality. And actually, the other teachers don't like to speak at all, because I know one master was saying, if we in a lay people ask him about questions about jhana, he say, I cannot speak with you about that because you don't have the experience. So I can't explain. It's beyond the normal understanding. And so the Buddha was the same, saying about Nibbana. He didn't like to explain Nibbana, which is actually the goal, not to be born again. And it's not nothing, but it's also not rebirth. But somehow the paramis of the person are still there. There are monks who, in their meditation, they got a visit from former monks, Lumpo Man, Lumpo Cha, or other monks, or sometimes Buddhas, who gave them teachings. But it can be because they are nibbanned. They are not there anymore. So the paramis are still there. But we say often like a river flows in the ocean. It's not a river anymore, but it's still there. And it's so difficult to explain. So this concept, different people have different idea how to transmit something. What I like in Eckhart Tolle is, so I personally, it's a belief. I don't know if it's true, but when I read his books, so for me it was quite clear that guy is a stream enterer. And and how can it be when he didn't have the teaching of the Buddha? But how it works is, he might have been a Buddhist in former life. And if you get stream entry in a former life, then it will come automatically in a future life again. And when the conditions are right. And he had this problem, he was suffering so much when he was in Oxford. Was it Oxford? I think he was in Oxford, a lecturer, and he had so much suffering and he didn't like to live anymore in this conflict, and then it triggered, and then it was automatically there. And now he tried teach other people to have it also, but it was a result of his former life. And how longer he teach, how more his teaching gets in line with Buddhism, isn't it? The same is with Eckhart Tolle and Master Eckhart, yeah, Master Eckhart. So a mystic, Christian mystic of the Middle Age, and it's the same when you read his teaching, and he said, "There is no God. Don't pray to a God. You have to develop the God inside yourself." It is not Christianity anymore. And he was so impressive and charismatic that nobody is realizing what he was actually teaching, that is not the teaching of the church anymore. Until they realized it, it was too late. So when they sent a delegation to question him, so he had passed away. Unfortunately, they got his disciples. Still, there were some painful questions. So could be the same, that in a former life he got stream entry as a Buddhist, and when you're born in the Middle Age, the closest is some Christianity monastic life, and but you have this knowledge already about reality, and then you fit it just in Christian words, and people who are enlightened, they don't have afraid of authorities anymore, because you just say how it is. And that is why Christianity have problems with mystics, because you cannot control them. It's a power institution. And this is just maybe Hinduism and maybe Buddhism, where actually ascetics are actually spiritual attainment is actually prized as attainment, and not to get in line with the teaching of the church. There was in the past, so I have this time, there is a very famous monk who passed away already. His name is Lungta Mahabua, and in Thailand, all believe he's an Arahant, fully enlightened person. So it was a state official declared an Arahant. Everyone believed this guy really have it when you read his books. And at this time, the problem is what we said already, to describe the teaching of the Buddha, something very difficult to use the normal language. So then you have to describe it with the words you have. So there, for example, there is, when he describes Nibbana, there is this which have no cause. There is this. There is this. I mean, there is still something. So there's a conflict about this. The study monks who say, but it's in the scripture way. There is. So there is still some self. There is something. And then you have the meditation method. No, actually, it's nothing. So they said there was a big conflict in Buddhism, and so they had the idea, you have to go to the big master to settle it. And so they went to Lungta Mahabua, and they asked him the question, is there something? In Nibbana, is there still something? Or is there absolute nothing? What is right? I am right, or is he right? And he said, you're all both wrong. There is not nothing, and there is not nothing. Also, there is something is wrong, and this thinking about there is nothing is also wrong. You cannot explain Nibbana. And so that just a different word how to describe experiences. And if you like to an emotional body, so if it's helpful to explain that, why not? It is more about the mind. And it's quite interesting because I lived 15 years in Thailand, and what I really appreciate is because I'm grown up as a Christian, and my social cultural, Christianity have shaped my experience. And then I ordained in a country which was Buddhist, where the people have a totally different, it's a totally different world. And then you realize actually how much the Christian Judaism mindset, or the way how you see the world, how it's influencing your being. For example, I was in a bus with children, and we traveled back from a zoo with children, means the novices. We had to visit something for them to go to a zoo on the way back. And then they played sometimes a video, because it's difficult for kids be 2.5 hours in a bus, so they put a video, and it was a video about this tsunami. And I was sitting, and next to me was an 8-year-old boy, and there was a story about a few survivors, and this one woman, she was, the wave took her away, and she was hurt, but she didn't die, and she crawled or walked, limped somehow, and then people did come and see her. And so a guy went to help her, and he had a long beard like that, beard like here and hair like that. And I was saying to the boy, I was laughing, that is not a Thai, that's an Indian. And he said, Ajahn, you're wrong. This is a guy who helps. And I said, he got the message. I said, I have to make critical mind. I said, these are movies, you know. It is the wrong person. He should be a Thai, but he looks like an Indian. Totally wrong with their hairs. They don't have all these facial hairs. You know, they should have done it better. So this critical Western mind. And then the boy was saying, no. The important thing is, Ben Kong Chui Gan, this is the person who is coming for help. And I realized, yeah, he's touched me to calm. I realized, yeah, the boy, you know, this, I could see my wrong mindset. And he was 8 years old. You know, it's a different culture where you see things in a different way. And so I often could realize how much of my being is actually the imprint of my education, or how Christian society was influencing how I was thinking. And in Thailand, you think different. I know when I was first time in Thailand as a layman, I didn't know anything about Buddhism. The only thing about Buddhism is how to write it correctly. And I was interested in doing a jungle tour. So I was in so small resort next to a national park. And so they had so tours, and the minimum 4 or 5 people. So I was absolutely interested to go in the jungle with someone, with a guide, but I was alone, so I had to convince people to come with me. And I could find only 2. There were Søren, the guy was like, okay, I'm doing it with 3. So it was a German a man and a German girl, a young woman, and the woman didn't like it. It was really scary. You have to sleep in the forest. It was a bamboo platform, 1.5 meter high, and the guide had the pistol there in case. And you're saying the most dangerous are the bears they're taking straight away, and there are tigers here. And she was so afraid. She was sleeping so close to me because she was so afraid. And the next, so she left one day earlier, and we stayed one day longer and went out. And when we arrived, she was just picking up to leave, and he asked me, the guide asked me, can you ask her? She didn't pay to give me this 1,600 baht, which was costing. It is not don't matter for me if she like it or not, but she got the service. And so I went to her, and she said, no, I didn't like it. I don't pay. I'm going now. So I went to him and found him really embarrassed because she was German and I was German. And I said, I'm sorry. She don't like to pay. And I said, oh yeah, okay. It's her problem. And I found this was my first impression of Buddhism. Instead of getting angry or cursing her, I said, oh, it's her problem. No, it's not my problem. She's not paying. And so a totally different way of seeing the world. So you're not getting angry if someone is cheating on you or, betraying you. You say, okay, this is karma and vipaka. So maybe that happened to me because I did that same, past life, happened to me. And this guy, I don't have to get angry because karma is doing the judging. And I don't have to do it. The important is I'm not losing my peace. And so that I read once a book many years ago about a Tibetan monk, and because when the Chinese Revolution war, then they put him to jail, and when the Chinese invaded, they put him to jail in 17 years, and because he was so impressive, so people who left this concentration camp, when they went to the Dalai Lama, he spoke about this monk who was so impressive. And after 7 years, he also had the possibility to leave, the body quite broken from the torture. And when he arrived at the Dalai Lama said, I know about you. I heard about stories about you. So I heard it was quite hard for you to do that. So what was your biggest fear during the 17 years incarceration? And he said, my biggest fear was I might lose the metta of the people who are torturing me. And I found, wow, that is it, isn't it? That is the basic of Buddhism. So to say, the important is to hold the heart in the right place, and to say, it's you're not getting angry about the person. You just see, this. You see about the consequences. What he's doing will create so much suffering for him. There's also the story of this Chinese monk, white cloud, empty cloud. Yeah, what was his Chinese name? Shun Yun. Yeah. So he was a very good meditator, and he taught retreat regularly. And then the Red Guard came, and because he didn't like that, and they beat him to death with some wooden clubs, and left him dead there. And 2 weeks later, he was teaching again, because with all his psychic powers he had, he helped his body to get good again. And then they realized he didn't die, so they came again, used iron rods and smashed him to pieces. And then now he's really dead, and left him. And 4 weeks later, he was teaching again. But unfortunately, now he was blind and couldn't hear anymore, but he could teach the Dhamma. And someone asked him why he put so much effort, all his cycle powers in. Your body is really broken now. Why you create this suffering? And they say, yeah, if I'm dying now, I'm afraid how much negative consequences it's have for this boy who was hitting me. Because if I'm die, then they also have to get the consequences of a big master dying. And if I survive, then they have less consequences, karmic consequences. So out of compassion, he put this effort in not to die, with his psychic power to hold his body together, and they recovered. And this is a sign of a big master, so it's not thinking about self anymore. So I can teach so many people as possible to find this happiness, to find the path who brings you further. In the end, sometimes in the future we can end rebirth in suffering, and it's this ultimate happiness, or whatever it is, in Nibbana. And in meditation, what is important in meditation, you can get a glimpse already of Nibbana. You can feel this happiness, or that is was beyond happiness, this feeling of at ease, though it's beyond happiness, that is so a taste already how Nibbana can be in the future. And to realize, yeah, that is actually what I'm interested in. And it will need many, many lifetimes, but don't matter how much it need, the important thing is every small step we are doing is a step in the right direction, and it brings more happiness. And I'm often saying to people, when they meditate, just look back 1 year, and how much practicing meditation and reflecting about life and getting the right attitude is a feeling of selfless giving, not Christian giving. I giving, so you have to give something back. I give you that, and then you have to convert to Christianity. So I'm giving that without hope to get something back. Only as a way to share something with the world, that that all brings so much happiness in your life. And in Wat Pah Pong, the monk who's the most happiest, when I know all the time, is the guy. He looks like a little stupid, but he's working and he's playing all the time stupid, but he's quite a bright guy. But he's working all the time, so absolute selfless. And when I'm seeing he's all the time bright, and because his full life is to give to the Sangha, to give to others. And so doing this selfless giving is creating so much happiness already. And the next is to observe the mind with meditation, to realize how does it work that I'm not happy now? How do I create this suffering for myself? To understand how their own mind works, to develop wisdom. And enlightened is not, we don't get enlightened through meditation. Ajahn Cittaviro, if you would get enlightened through sitting, all the chickens would be enlightened. No, the calming of the mind gives just the mind the power to reflect and to understand cause and results. And the wisdom is which finish, rebirth. The wisdom, what I was just speaking with one of our lagists yesterday, and they're saying, what I as a monk, the problem as a monk is you develop, you're getting more and more less of dosa, negativity and aversion, but at the same time, you're getting more sensitive to it. You have the feeling actually you're still suffering because you feel it better. It is less before, but you can feel it better because your awareness that also gets stronger. And I told him, you wouldn't believe it, but if someone is doing something weird or something really bad, and I telling him off, and I just have a little bit of negativity in my heart when I say that, I will suffer for weeks. I have this really like I was scraping a glowing coal and it's burned myself. And so I'm practicing often like Thais to actually to see if I can say something without being negative or judging, and when I hear someone is doing something wrong, not to judging him, so it's just to give him some information so he can change himself, so he create better karma to be more happy with himself. So meditation makes you more sensitive, awareness more sensitive to it. So you have the feeling like you're not developing, but in reality, it's get less. But at the same time, you get more sensitive. You feel it better. Then it gets less because you realize I don't like to have that, and you realize how much negative still is, and so you try to reduce it. And then it gets less, but your awareness gets stronger. Till in the end, there is not much. Okay, Eva, that was. We reached 4 o'clock. Thank you for coming. Next week, last talk from the big master, Ajahn Cittaviro is giving his last talk.